He also believed that the rifle that police suspected the shooter used matched a rifle that was given to his son as a gift.
That jaw-dropping confession from the killer's father has sent shockwaves across the nation. And now, the FBI has verified the truth. They've recovered the exact weapon that ended Charlie Kirk's life. This revelation doesn't just twist the case. It could rewrite everything we thought we knew. Explosive new updates in Charlie Kirk's murder investigation. The morning after his assassination, a massive joint operation, local police, state detectives, and FBI agents combed through the dense woods near Utah Valley University, searching for the clues that could shatter the case wide open.
Made at approximately 12:20 Mountain Standard Time. Political influencer Charlie Kirk was shot in an event at the Utah Valley University. He was taken by private vehicle to Timpanogos Hospital, where he later passed.
At the press conference, Utah Department of Public Safety Commissioner Bo Mason finally confirmed the nation's worst fears. This was no random act of violence. Charlie Kirk, he announced with chilling certainty, had been deliberately hunted down, targeted with precision and intent.
We have full resources devoted to this investigation, including tactical, operational, investigative, and intelligence. To be clear, the FBI will fully support and co-lead this investigation alongside with our partner.
Investigators were certain the shooter had left something behind. What they unearthed would not only tie the murder to a single man, but also expose a chilling tale of how an antique relic became the weapon behind a modern-day assassination. Beneath a tangle of branches, hastily concealed, they uncovered a Mauser Model 98 bolt-action rifle chambered in .306 caliber, a design forged more than a century ago. But this was no ordinary firearm. Prosecutors later confirmed it had once belonged to the grandfather of the accused assassin, Tyler Robinson, handed down as a family heirloom. A relic of world wars, stripped of any serial number, it was completely untraceable. For investigators, the reason became clear. Robinson had chosen an old gun that left no paper trail, nearly invisible under modern firearm laws. Yet his perfect plan unraveled instantly. The towel used to wrap the rifle carried his DNA. A screwdriver tossed nearby bore the same genetic signature. And most damning of all, his DNA was found on the trigger, the bolt, and even the casing of the fired round. The very weapon he believed would vanish into history became the one that testified against him. From the rooftop, forensic teams discovered even more, an elbow print captured using advanced 3D scanning technology, where Robinson had laid prone to take aim. Though less distinct than fingerprints, it matched surveillance footage showing him crawling into position. Investigators followed a trail of footprints and palm prints leading from the rooftop through the woods. Security cameras confirmed his escape, fleeing the scene, dropping something shaped like the rifle, and later changing clothes to hide his tracks. But beyond the science was the human devastation. Charlie Kirk had been addressing nearly 3,000 people at Utah Valley University when the bullet struck his neck. Death was instantaneous. There was no time to save him. His widow, Erica Kirk, later recounted the moment she saw his body in the hospital, a memory that will haunt her forever.
I saw the wound that ended his life. I felt everything you would expect to feel. I felt shock. I felt horror. And a level of heartache that I didn't even know existed.
Her words cast the tragedy in haunting silence, a moment frozen between unbearable loss and instant finality. Investigators remarked on the sheer suddenness of it all, while Erica recalled how the doctor told her that even if Charlie had been shot inside an operating room, there was nothing anyone could have done. That single bullet, fired from more than 150 yards away, had ended everything in less than a second. Meanwhile, the wheels of justice began turning almost as swiftly as the forensic discoveries. On September 29th, Tyler Robinson made his first brief appearance in court, the beginning of a trial that would soon grip the nation.
When asked why he did it, Robinson explained there is too much evil and the guy, referring to Charlie Kirk, spreads too much hate. They talked about Robinson turning himself in and convinced Robinson to speak with a family friend who is a retired deputy sheriff.
His public defender requested 30 to 60 days to sift through what was described as a mountain of evidence: DNA samples, gun-related materials, text messages, rooftop access logs, and hours of surveillance footage. But prosecutors pushed back, insisting the case was airtight and the proof overwhelming. The court set a preliminary hearing for October 30th, 2025, with prosecutors announcing their intent to seek the death penalty. Even Tyler Robinson's own family began piecing the story together. His father identified the recovered rifle as the same one he had once gifted to his son. Meanwhile, in interviews, his mother admitted she recognized the suspect's photo on the news. The face looked too familiar, prompting her to call him in panic. That single detail didn't just link Robinson to the weapon, it exposed how his own family unknowingly guided investigators straight to him. Then came the most damning evidence of all, Robinson's own words. In text messages to his roommate and romantic partner, he confessed he had been planning the shooting for over a week. In another, he wrote chillingly, "I've had enough of his hatred. Some hate can't be negotiated out." Those words echoed his mother's earlier recollection that her son had often dismissed Charlie Kirk as a man who, in his view, spread too much hate.
That young man. On the cross, our Savior said, "Father, forgive them, for they not know what they do." That man, that young man, I forgive him.
The consistency across Tyler Robinson's private messages and family conversations gave prosecutors a clear, chilling narrative. This was no moment of rage. It was a calculated mission. In Discord chats, Robinson even boasted about engraving the bullets and detailed how he'd hidden the rifle in a bush after the shooting. With every digital clue, the case tightened like a noose. Surveillance footage added a new layer of certainty. Cameras around Utah Valley University showed Robinson arriving hours before the event, dressed in a maroon shirt, light-colored shorts, and a black hat. At one point, footage captured what investigators described as his unusual gait, likely from concealing the rifle beneath his clothing. Later, another camera caught him lying prone on the rooftop, then fleeing into the woods with the weapon. Moments later, another feed showed him dropping an object shaped like the rifle before changing clothes. It was a digital breadcrumb trail, a silent witness pieced together by the unblinking eyes of campus cameras. As the story unfolded, so did the courtroom drama. Robinson's first appearance came on September 16th, just days after his arrest. He appeared virtually, wearing an anti-suicide smock, offering no plea. The Utah County Attorney's Office announced 7 charges: aggravated murder, 2 counts of felony firearm discharge, witness tampering, obstruction of justice, 2 additional counts linked to evidence concealment. Prosecutors declared they would seek the death penalty, framing the assassination as both a political act and an assault on free speech. This was an American tragedy, said Utah County Attorney Jeff Gray, a targeted killing of a man for his words.
Mother stated that the following to police. On September 11, 2025, the day after the shooting, Robinson's mother saw the photo of the shooter in the news and thought the shooter looked like her son. Robinson's mother called her son and asked him where he was. He said he was at home sick, and that he had also been at home homesick on September 10th.
Still, not everyone accepted the official version. Online commentators questioned why the crime scene was repaved so quickly and why autopsy details were withheld from the public. These gaps fueled conspiracy theories, but prosecutors remained unmoved, insisting the forensic evidence alone was more than enough to proceed. Even so, the defense pushed back. Robinson's attorney requested additional time to review what she described as voluminous discovery, digital logs, ballistics reports, and hours of surveillance footage. She hinted at challenging eyewitness inconsistencies and even ballistic matches, suggesting that certain accounts didn't align perfectly with the physical evidence. It was the first indication that, despite overwhelming proof, this trial could stretch for years through appeals and disputes. At the center of it all,
know all three of his brothers also.
And one thing I want to ask you, is this something, I'm so sorry to cut you off, is this something consistent with who you know him to be?
No, no, kid was smart, quiet, he never caused any problem.
As the court proceedings moved forward, the story of the rifle took an even darker and more unexpected turn. During hearings, prosecutors stressed how the Mauser's archaic design had, paradoxically, made it more lethal in Tyler Robinson's hands. Though slower to fire than modern semi-automatics, its bolt-action precision turned deadly from the rooftop vantage point. Investigators testified that Robinson fired from well over 150 yards away, delivering a single, fatal shot with surgical accuracy. This was no act of random rage, no chaotic spray of bullets, but a measured, clinical execution. Then came the most startling revelation yet. Robinson's roommate and romantic partner, testifying under subpoena, revealed that Robinson had written a note declaring his intent to kill Charlie Kirk and later destroyed it after photographing it. He also admitted knowing about the engraved bullets, even discussing them on Discord, where Robinson joked about the absurdity of carving memes into ammunition. That testimony gave prosecutors their clearest timeline: the note, the week of planning, the engraving, the rooftop setup, and finally the discarding of the rifle. In the media, the case was portrayed as both shocking and eerily inevitable. The convergence of online radicalization, an heirloom rifle-turned-weapon, and the cold precision of a meticulously planned assassination. Across social media, clips of Erica Kirk's memorial.
James Robinson intentionally or knowingly caused the death of Charlie Kirk.
Just for the court's information, we did file just recently, within the last few minutes, a notice of intent to seek the death penalty.
For many, those words captured the tragedies: duality, loss and grace, grief and resilience. The preliminary hearing, set for October 30th, promised to draw even greater national attention. The state was pursuing the death penalty. The defense was preparing a line of fierce challenges. And Erica Kirk was rapidly becoming the public face of the tragedy. A parade of forensic experts stood ready to testify about DNA traces, ballistic paths, and the impressions left on the rooftop. Through every development, the murder weapon remained the haunting centerpiece of the case. When Tyler Robinson was first arrested, the story appeared straightforward. Authorities had the rifle, the DNA, the digital trail, and the surveillance footage. But as the days unfolded, the investigation evolved into something far more tangled and human. Beneath the layers of forensics lay a family torn apart, a community in shock, and a story where each new testimony seemed to twist the truth a little further. The first of those twists came from Robinson's own parents. It wasn't the police who initially connected him to the killing, it was his family. His mother, Amber Robinson, revealed in a televised interview that, the morning after the assassination, she'd seen the blurry image of the shooter flash across the evening news. The figure looked uncannily familiar. She described that moment as surreal, where disbelief, dread, and recognition collided in the span of a few heartbeats.
Guys, I hope everyone has been having a good Friday. What are we going to discuss today? Well, it has been going viral. A mere minutes after Charlie Kirk is shot, there are two men that look rather mysterious.
For many, those words captured the tragedies: duality, loss and grace, grief and resilience. The preliminary hearing, set for October 30th, promised to draw even greater national attention. The state was pursuing the death penalty. The defense was preparing a line of fierce challenges. And Erica Kirk was rapidly becoming the public face of the tragedy. A parade of forensic experts stood ready to testify about DNA traces, ballistic paths, and the impressions left on the rooftop. Through every development, the murder weapon remained the haunting centerpiece of the case. When Tyler Robinson was first arrested, the story appeared straightforward. Authorities had the rifle, the DNA, the digital trail, and the surveillance footage. But as the days unfolded, the investigation evolved into something far more tangled and human. Beneath the layers of forensics lay a family torn apart, a community in shock, and a story where each new testimony seemed to twist the truth a little further. The first of those twists came from Robinson's own parents. It wasn't the police who initially connected him to the killing, it was his family. His mother, Amber Robinson, revealed in a televised interview that, the morning after the assassination, she'd seen the blurry image of the shooter flash across the evening news. The figure looked uncannily familiar. She described that moment as surreal, where disbelief, dread, and recognition collided in the span of a few heartbeats.
Some new lows over the weekend, with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them, and doing everything they can to score political points from.
That single detail transformed the narrative from a faceless killing to a deeply personal tragedy. The very parents who had once gifted their son the rifle were now the ones identifying it in the hands of their child. And the contradictions only deepened from there. Amber Robinson later recalled that when she confronted her son about the shooting, he seemed unusually calm. He told her he'd been homesick, denied any involvement, and tried to change the subject. But only days later, prosecutors revealed that his roommate had turned over the incriminating note, the Discord chats, and the details about the engraved bullets. As prosecutors built their timeline, discrepancies began to surface. The defense claimed eyewitnesses offered conflicting accounts of the shooter's exact position. But investigators stood firm. They had DNA on the rifle, surveillance footage, rooftop impressions, and even the handwritten confession note. Still, the public couldn't ignore the bitter irony. The case had begun to unravel not because of high-tech breakthroughs, but because Robinson's own family had turned him in. The same parents who once wrapped the rifle as a gift were now testifying that they recognized it among the evidence photos. Even Robinson's own words blurred the line between sincerity and absurdity. In one digital exchange, he joked that engraving memes into bullets was just for laughs. In another, he spoke with chilling seriousness about Charlie Kirk's hatred and his own need to stop it. Prosecutors argued that this contradiction was emblematic of an internet-bred culture where irony and violence had become indistinguishable, where a joke could mask intent until it was too late. As the case deepened, what once looked like an airtight prosecution turned into a portrait of fractured humanity. Parents torn between loyalty and truth. A roommate trapped between love and betrayal. A widow left to reconcile her husband's death as both martyrdom and murder. The twists weren't in the forensic evidence that remained unshakable, but in the human stories colliding around it. And as the October preliminary hearing approached, those collisions only intensified. The digital trail left by Tyler Robinson became one of the most revealing elements of all. Beyond the weapon and physical evidence, prosecutors demonstrated how he had documented his planning step by step. The Discord logs painted an erratic, volatile picture, messages that veered between mockery and menace. He joked about engraving bullets, called it just a meme, and described leaving the rifle hidden in the woods. Investigators showed how these online posts matched perfectly with the physical findings, the engraved cartridges, the discarded rifle, the DNA-covered tools. But the defense seized on those same messages, arguing they reflected immaturity, not malice. That Tyler Robinson, far from being a cold-blooded killer, was a confused young man lost in digital irony. Even his neighbors added to the contradictions, describing him as quiet, polite, and hardworking. A portrait that only made the darkness of his actions harder to comprehend.